Hello everyone, I'm Jaha Zainabu and welcome to Storytime with Jaha Zainabu 2020. That's a thing. Um so Storytime 20. So it's been 20 days of us together. Um let's see, where will I begin? I'll begin with, for those of you who have been following my uh, day job ventures in Atlanta. So I did my first cleaning today. For those of you who know, you already know. I joined a cleaning agency here in Atlanta because rent is real. And so I did my first cleaning today. And anti-blackness is real. The cleaning went well, and I've said this in other story times. I kept with this company, it's called you have to claim a job. So I kept claiming jobs and kept getting canceled like 30 seconds after I claimed the job. But I claimed a job from a woman based on her name. She was a black woman. And I was like, okay, we good here. So sis did not cancel, and we had a good time today. So it was cool. I'm working tomorrow through Thursday, and hopefully every day, actually, for a little while. So that's been going well. I said that I was going to celebrate every 20 days that I did the story times, because I believe in celebrating, like, small victories. I believe in celebrating them. And so today, what I did to celebrate was I went to work, and I like that. It was an easy and good job, and so that's what I did to celebrate. Judge yourself. Today, uh, today I'm talking about how artists navigate once we get off the stage. And where did I get that from? I got that because I was talking to my friend Jessica, and today I said, what am I going to talk about? I said, what am I going to talk about? And so she and I started talking about how artists, poets, all artists. So the question is to all artists, or preachers, or speakers, or people who are up in front of audiences, how you navigate once you get off the stage. And it's an interesting thing, because some people are while they have these, and I am specifically talking about poets here, because these are people that I know. Some people have these very huge personalities on stage, but they are also, very much introverts. And so it's interesting when people approach us after we get off stage, and the questions and the things that people say is like is very, very personal. And I think because we ask and we tell such very, very, very personal stories on stage, that people feel like, oh, I can just ask her about it. And to a crowd of 100 people, it's different. It's an easier telling than to one perfect stranger. 100 perfect strangers know, one perfect stranger, it's weird. And I get it. I get people feeling that comfortable. I remember a million years ago, I was out with a friend. We were having lunch on Melrose, and Jada Pinkett Smith, well, not, she wasn't Smith at the time, but Jada Pinkett, I think she was on a date with someone. And I was like, Jada Pinkett, you know. And she was eating, and I approached her. I don't remember what I said, but today I'm like, can this woman eat? You know? Um, so it, you know, but I mean, I did not ask her some, you know, really personal question or anything like that. But I think with poets, I think, like I said, because we tell these super personal stories, I think people receive that as invitation to um, ask us really personal questions. And for a lot of people, it is, we don't know what to do with it. Um, yeah, and people, you know, say things. People have said things to me that I was like, I don't really know what to do with that. I remember I was at the Poetry Lounge, DPL, in Los Angeles. And DPL is one of, if not the biggest poetry open mic spot in the country. Um, and so I don't remember, I think I was featured that night. And I got off the stage, and this guy approached me, somebody I did not know. And he walked up to me and he said, wow, that was actually surprisingly really, really good. And so I was just standing there like, do I say thank you, or do I focus on circle surprisingly? I did say thank you. It was weird that he would have to add surprisingly in there, because he could have left that out. And what was surprising about it? You never saw me before. Um, so, you know, I so I went on Facebook, and it was very last minute. So I asked this question to other artists. I didn't get. I only got one response so far, because I actually posted the question and then turned the camera on. So there's that. So I said in the I said in the question, I said to the artists, namely the poets that I know, I asked, when you get off the stage, how are you with people coming up to you to discuss your work? Like, how do you navigate after you get off stage? Um, or or how do you like feel about them coming up to you just to get to know you? Do you give people your social media handles? How do you deal with people deep diving your socials? And I'll answer that. Um, so before I do, so Jessica asked me, she said, when I told her that I was going to talk about that tonight, she said, you know, well, you never ask questions that you don't answer. So how would you answer how you navigate people coming up to you, or asking you really personal things, or, you know. Um, and I think my case is a little bit different. Um, I have a mosquito bite. I have mentioned probably in every story time that I was always going to be a writer since I could write. Since I knew that writing professionally was a thing, it was a thing I was going to do. And and so much so, and I knew that I was going to be uh, interviewed about my work, about my words. That's the vision that I had for myself when I was very young. And I did not have I didn't have rock star dreams. It wasn't that. I didn't even know that, that was a thing for people who wrote. But I had, I just saw myself as somebody who was going to write stories that people would want to talk to me about. And I lived in that when I was a very young girl, and I would pretend to be on interviews. No one was sitting opposite me, but it's like no one, and then I would answer this question. No one, and then I would tell some story. I think my the first television talk show host that I really liked was Oprah Winfrey. I used to, here's something I've never said. I used to, when I was home at 3 o'clock when the Oprah Winfrey show came on, I used to get dressed in whatever I would wear on the Oprah Winfrey show if I were a guest. And I told you I was quirky. I told y'all this, so stop acting surprised. So the theme music or whatever for the Oprah Winfrey show would come on, and she would come on and she would do her opening, what she did, and I would be in my room. And then whoever she was introducing me. And I would come out and I would sit on my couch and Oprah would be interviewing me. Bless my heart. So Oprah would be interviewing me. And I would answer questions and I would laugh, and Oprah and I would shoot the shit. That was him. And no, you know what? I have said this before. I remember one time I used to get interviewed a lot on KGLH, and it's a radio station in Los Angeles. Actually, it's the radio station that Stevie Wonder owns. And I used to get interviewed a lot on that station. And one night, I don't remember what we were talking about, but the person toward the end of the interview, she said, no, it was after the interview, because it was after. I remember that. But she said, you interview, like you answer questions very well, And I was like, thank you. I've been doing this for years. She was like, really? Because I didn't know that. And I was like, no, just, all the years that I was on Oprah. And she was like, you were on Oprah. And I was like, well, kind of. And I told her that story. But back to how we navigate. What is interesting is that my generation, and by generation, I mean age, but I also mean the group that I came up with in poetry. And we were different ages, but I clump us all in the same, what I call generation. But my generation, I believe, was a lot more accessible and frankly friendly to the people who were coming up under us than our predecessors were to us. So the generation above me, and it's not that they weren't meanies, they weren't that. We just so I'm going to say something very LA specific. So for those of you in Los Angeles who know V. Kali, Sequoia, S. Pearl Sharp, you know that you don't just roll up and be S. Pearl Sharp's friend. Like you know that you really got to be invited into that conversation. Um, like that group was not like, and I think a lot of it has to do with social media is a big thing. Um, I came up, well, I didn't come up with social media. I came up like way before social media. I am older than YouTube. Um, but sometime in my coming up, YouTube is a thing. MySpace is a thing. Blogging is new to the world and is now a thing. And we jumped on it. And as I definitely did. I could not start blogging quick enough. Like, what? And I could tell my stories every day. Um, and I did tell my stories every day. And my blog, if you ever have followed me, is mostly about my life. And so we told very, very personal stories about our lives. And then we went on stages. And afterward, people, and I would tell stories about my life like no one was ever reading them. And it would shock me when people would say, you know what, I am bipolar also. Or like, or I experienced this also. And that also could be something that I never even said while I was on stage. And so, but we don't get that people actually are reading. Um, yeah. So I want to read a comment from Seabone Jones, who said, who is like a poet that I love. And he said, so in answer to how do you navigate when you get off the stage, and how are you with people coming up to you and talking to you like they know you? And so his answer was, okay, so I used to believe in setting the mic on fire and getting the fuck on, right? And that was SIBO. Then when I was in Atlanta, Akil Talib invited me to see a J5 show in Nashville. It was a few thousand folks in the crowd. After performing for about an hour, all four of the group members sat at the edge of the stage about 5 feet apart from each other. Each of them had a line of fans in front of them. They signed every t-shirt and every hat. They took pictures, they shook every hand, did radio drops on the spot, whatever, just to return the love. That taught me to be a little bit more approachable, especially when I started selling CDs and DVDs and merch. But in a one-on-one situation, it takes years and years of interactions to be able to tell who's legit and who's full of which I love that story about J5. Because and I don't know that people get what it takes, because here's the thing. I know people are like, well, you wrote it. Why can't you talk about it? Or, you wrote it for people to read. And yeah, people are going to approach you and bring up personal things. But you wrote it for that. We did. But the thing is, okay, I'm going to give you this example. I wrote some notes. So I'm going to give you this example. I was booked on a show with this poet. I won't say his name. So I'm booked on a show with this brother, poet. And we are hanging out like in the crowd where everybody is. There wasn't a green room or anything like that. So we're hanging out. And someone approached him and said, a woman approached him. And she said, oh, I'm so glad, and she's talking to him, and she said, I'm so glad that I'm going to get to hear you again tonight. You're one of my favorite poets, and of course he's receiving that. Like, thanks, sis. Thanks for coming. I hope you have a great time. And she said, "Can I make a request?" And so he said, I don't. It depends. Like, what would you like to hear? And so she says, "Oh, I really want you to do that poem about when you almost cheated on your wife that time." And I cringed for him. And because I know the poem, and it's a very sensitive poem. We write these super sensitive stories and pieces about these really raw areas of our lives. And so I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. So yes, we do write these stories for people to hear. But the thing is, we're not like these emotional creatures that can just like be that raw on the spot. You kind of have to feel a certain way to do a piece like that. And here's the kicker: we're not Beyonce. This is back in. This was before my son was born, and my son was born in '97. So this gig might have been in '93 or something like that. So we may have left that show with $50, maybe. So we're not paid for that. We don't. Yeah, how do I say this without sounding weird? Yes, we're not paid for that. So he did not actually read that poem. I am so glad. It just wasn't the night for it. I talk about reading the room. And we got, as a poet, as poets, we really have to read rooms. I don't have gigs where I know exactly what I'm going to talk about. Or like which poems I'm going to do exactly. I really, like I said, I really read the room. I really read to see like who's here, does the night call for this piece? And the truth is, I'm often in prayer about, especially before a gig, about what poems I should do. And I don't, and I try to be obedient to that because I believe and I know that Most High knows who is in the audience and what they're going through much better than I do. And so I try to be obedient to what comes up and read what I should read or recite what I should recite. I remember I was at DPL and I was featured again this night. And I got off the stage, and I'm during this time. This is like in the '90s or late '90s, early 2000s, and poets at this time were selling CDs. I was selling CDs, and so I'm featured. I was featured. I got off the stage, and then after the show's over, you beeline to get outside and hold up your product and hope somebody buys it. And this woman approached me and called me Robin. Bitch, you do not know me like that. You do not. I never said that was my name on stage. I'm sure I mentioned it in some blog. It's not, ancient Chinese secret. It's not, I don't mind people who I grew up with who knew me as Robin. I don't have a problem with them calling me Robin. It wasn't, but then my name change was not a religious experience, experience. But I don't like new people calling me Robin. And for her to do that was like, sis, I do want to sell this CD, but that's what you can't do. And so, even I get stumped with like the things that people say. And navigating after the show it's not always easy. Even though I was on Oprah for many, many years, it's not always easy. I remember once this is also like probably very early 2000s, if not 2000 or 99 or something like that. And I there was a like a place where poets would perform and singers and other entertainers. So there was this place in Hollywood called the Knitting Factory. So I'm at the Knitting Factory, and it's me and two other guys. One of the guys was a man who I'll also will not say his name, but he was a man who is a very, very popular poet. And he used to book a lot of poets on really good gigs, like really good gigs. And a lot of poets have, like, you back in the day could not throw a stone and not hit a poet that this guy booked. But he never booked me. He never booked me. And so he performed, and then I performed, and then the other guy on the bill went on. So the guy that I'm talking about, he got really drunk. He went on first, and he got really, 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 really drunk that night. And he came up to me, super drunk and super handsy and super huggy. And he was like, Jaha. He said, I finally get it. What? He said, I finally get you. You were really great up there. And I finally get you. He said, for so many years, your name would come up, I guess, in regard to like some show or some event that he could have booked me on. And he said, so many years your name would come up. And I would always tell people, Jaha, I just don't get it. I don't see it. I don't get it. And it's okay. I'm not for everybody. I'm not for everybody. But you could have kept that to yourself, especially to people who could have booked me. But whatever. And I'm glad that he was drunk that night, because sober, he probably wouldn't have said this. If I mention it to him today, he probably won't remember. If I had mentioned it to him the next day, he probably would not have remembered saying that. But he said, but tonight, he said, I sat there and I watched you and I listened to you and I get it. I get it. Okay. And what do I do but say, okay, thank you for getting it now. Yeah. Where was I? I make notes that I hardly ever follow. I am also in celebration for day 20. I'm going to read from my ebook, Sweet Hallelujah. But I'm going to share just a few more examples, and then I'm going to jump into it. I hope you enjoy. So many years ago, I wrote this poem called Jeans. Jeans was one of my money pieces, like a piece that I could do with my eyes closed in my sleep. And I don't know if there's a stage that I haven't performed Jeans on. And the poem Jeans is about me not being the woman I was, like me growing up. And I'm trying to think of some lines from the, you know what? I could read Jeans. How about that? I was trying to think of some lines from the poem, but I know that I have that. Let's see, where is it? Yeah, here it is. Here it is. 2021. So the poem is called Jeans. There comes a point in a woman's life when we stop to ponder yesterday. The transformation from then to now. The people we've met and been along the way. And the prompt of the musing comes in an array of fashion, an old photograph, a familiar scent, the recent exodus of a lover whose footprints led us to the father whose humanity broke our hearts first. Spring cleaning is when it happens to me. When, finally, I give those favorite pair of jeans, fashionably faded perfectly at the knee, to the local Goodwill, Salvation Army, or my favorite niece. This time I will not convince myself that one day they will fit again, or make my butt look quite the same again, or that I will suffer to commute myself to the woman bygone again. These jeans will not ever kiss these lips or hug these cheeks again. And the beauty, finally, is that I don't want them anymore. They are not quite big enough to hold the woman I am today. These jeans belong to a girl whose favorite song had more to do with how she could move to the bass than what she could learn from the lyrics. And she wore them well. Model thin with flawless skin, a good girl who compromised until sacrifice became her addiction. I am not so flexible. They don't quite fit me. Not anymore. So the poem, as you really smart people can easily deduce, that this poem is not about jeans at all. So I did this poem, and out shopping in LA, and I run into this guy, who has been in many of my audiences, and he approached me and he said, and I had on jeans. And he said, "See, Jaha, I thought you didn't wear jeans no more." I am at Ralph's Market buying tampons and eggs. So that should give you a clue that this is not the space to confront me about the fuck I say in my poetry. And B, the poem is not about jeans at all. And I didn't answer, because what do you even say? I was like, see, yeah, you're right. You're right, big man. You are right. So another time. So, okay, navigating how people approach you in person after a gig is one thing. what people say in comments, what people are bold enough to talk about you in comments is something else. Is a whole story time by itself. So one year I did Russell Simmons had this poetry thing. It was called All Deaf Digital. I think it's called All Deaf Digital. I didn't do Def Jam, but I did a poem for All Deaf Digital. And because it's Russell Simmons, it's widely aired and people comment. And in the poem, I think I mentioned something like how good God's been to me. Something about God being good. Something God good, God something. And I never mention a religion. I never and I don't usually. I don't usually. I have a very personal and real relationship with the energy that lives in me that I call God. Where I worship is my business and irrelevant. I mean, not irrelevant, but well, kind of. Anyway, so I mentioned how good God is to me. And somebody in the comments went off. And I was like, why do you go off about that? Like, can I testify? And he was like, I bet she doesn't even know that Christianity is the white man's religion, which I never said anything about Christianity. And she said, I bet Christianity is the white man's religion. I bet she's too ignorant and blah, 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 blah. And no way did I respond to something like that. But I was like, wow, the audacity. And people are very, very big and bold, as a thumbnail. And I keep going back to, and maybe it shouldn't matter, but it does. I keep going back to, we're not paid for. I think I got $60 for doing All Deaf Digital. I mean, you know what I mean? I think, it's like spill your heart out on video for a whole bunch of people. Okay. And I was grateful. I jumped at that $60. Are you kidding? And this is not like just for shits and giggles. Sometimes I go down the rabbit hole of comments, when on a Beyonce video. And people say like, these dog ass things that are really, really mean. And I know that Beyonce has feelings. I know that Rihanna and the superstar, I know they have feelings. And they're not in their one bedroom apartment. Right? They are not, overdrawn on their Wells Fargo account. They're not. Would it make a difference? Probably. Well, actually, it would, especially in person, because nobody is coming up to Beyonce and Rihanna and saying really, really, really personal things about Beyonce's life to Beyonce in person, because there's a whole team of security in place to make sure that that does not happen. It's, I don't know, just like even like thinking like about money and like I remember I don't know where I was, somewhere in LA. And and you know, I have always lived a very, you know, regular kind of hustle life. You know, I'm selling paintings, I'm selling books, I'm selling earrings I made, shit. I'm selling something to make the rent. Um and so I'm, you know, I'm somewhere in Los Angeles, and um this woman is mentioning me from the stage. And she's a much younger poet than I, and a poet whose work I greatly admire and respect. And I came to see her. So I'm sitting in the third row. I'm as close as I can get because that's what I do. And she's on stage, and she's just spilling poem after story, and I am eating it up. And I love a good storyteller. I love a good poet. Um, I just love when an artist respects her craft and has done the work and respects the stage and is doing her thing. And it was that night. So I'm sitting there, and I was just like, you know. So she stopped. Um, she stopped in the middle of her set, and she said, you know, I just want to say right now how that there is someone in the audience. There is an elder in the audience. An elder. It's an elder. There is an elder in the audience who I really respect, and that she would be here and watch me and listen to me, and just watching her in the audience smiling and nodding and giving amen. And I'm turning around like, who is in the building? Oh, and for her to be talking about me like, oh, you know, um you know, I was, you know, and she went on in her talk of me to say how she admired how humble was the word she used about me. And I was like, and I've heard that about me many times. And I'm not saying that I'm not humble. Well, I mean, I don't really use that word about myself. Um, and I'm not saying that I'm not that, but I'm like, I live a regular ass life. I'm like, sis, at that time, like, sis, I drive a Ford Escort, bro. Like, I think I might be caught up on the rent, okay? Like, I am not out here flossing. I'm not out here, you know, on that. Yes, I would be humble. Yes, you know. Um, so, um, I don't know how. I don't know how I thought about that, but I did. Um, yeah, I don't know how I thought about that, but I did. But just, I thought about, and I am interested in how you, as artists, how you navigate, you know, after the show. Are you an introvert? I generally, don't mind hugs, but as a general rule, I really would prefer people not. Um, and it's not a thing about being an introvert. It's really a thing about germs. It's not me. Sometimes it's you, and I don't want that. I don't. But with people that I know and people that I'm comfortable with, I am pretty huggy. Um, Strangers, not so much. And I think that people feel like, but we're not strangers. I know all about you. I've been following your blog since 2008. And we go back. And sometimes they don't get that we don't go back. We don't go back. I have no yesterday with you. Not one. Not one yesterday. We can start today, but but that was me then. I'm a little, more easier about it now. But even now, I have I don't mind people doing a deep dive on my socials, deep diving my blogs. I don't mind, mostly because I can't prevent it. I mean, you can't block people from your blogs. So I don't really mind that they do that. I don't usually like to talk about it. I don't usually like to, talk about. Now, I mean, I don't mind talking about it if I'm on stage and it's something that I have chosen that this is what I'm going to talk about tonight. But I, I don't usually like to one-on-one talk about it with people that I don't know. With people that I've never met. I don't generally like to do that, because I don't know you. I mean, I haven't met you. I don't know you. And I mean, never say never. I mean, so there have been times that I have had really good conversations with people that I didn't know about something that I may have posted. Usually, I am very open to talking about that if it's about depression or mental illness or something like that, mental health, something like that. Because I know how lonely that experience is, and I talk about mental health a lot in my blogs. Really, I talk about it on stage too, but usually if I'm on stage, unless mental health is wrapped in a poem, I'm not really discussing it. But in my blog, I obviously have a little bit more time. But I talk about it, my personal experiences with depression and mania, because I want people to know that that they're not alone. I want people to know that not just other people who have a lived experience with depression or bipolar or something like that. I want people to know that when they talk about those people, I'm of those people. So if you need a face to it, use mine. You are talking about me when you say, and then they with your face twisted. That's me too. I get down too. I have lived with suicidal ideations too. I have two, you know. So so back to the topic. When I do make exceptions for personal conversations around depression. For that reason. And I know you never know what somebody is going through thing is. You don't. And I am very, 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 very careful not to dismiss someone who would have the, muster the courage, the energy to dare even express, dare even reveal himself, herself to me and ask a question, any question that anyone would have around depression is going to be personal, because it's personal. It's a serious thing. Um, I don't care where I am. Um, I don't care what I'm talking about. Um, I always am open um, to that discussion, to someone. If someone feels endeared enough to me and safe enough with me, or if someone hopes that they will be safe enough with me to bring up an attempted suicide, or some, like, what could be more personal, I'm going to take time, and I'm going to not make her feel weird about it. And that's a different thing. That's a different level. That's not walking up to me, calling me Robin, because you happen to know that that is the name I was born with. And you want me to know that we cool like that, and we not cool like that. That is not, it's not a lot of things. It's not a lot of what people have approached me with. So I do have space for that. I wanted to, so we only have about maybe 7 minutes. And I wanted to read some poems from Sweet Hallelujah, because I rarely read from this book. Sweet Hallelujah is my ebook that came out in, I don't remember the month. Don't make me do math. Not that that's math. But Sweet Hallelujah is the book that I call my vegan option, because the language is clean. It's very light. It's a collection of peace, praise, worship poems, and it's late here in Atlanta. And it's how I'd like to end my night with you. Look at how space I am, where my wings flap so free, how high above the sky I go. My body way down there, I give myself time each day to lift my head in praise. I am so much more than flesh, more than blood and river, where I can be, cross any mountain anytime I choose. Did you sit on the porch today and see the sky? Did the clouds turn red before your eyes? A dog bark at your feet? A car creep down your block? Did you hear the grass grow? Say hello to your neighbor. Rest your elbows on your knees, your head in your palms. Did you count your breath in the silence of the day? Let a worm crawl across your toes. Sip tea with ginger. Count the cracks in the road. Did you live today? With your hands in your lap, your head in the sky, with love on your tongue. This poem is called Gratitude. I am grateful for my body, twisting in the most myriad of pretzel, my feet butterfly in the covers, celebrating the breeze in the air, way I love a winter night. Then my lotus self awakens to new day, to the sun pump and patient through my blinds. I celebrate this day. I celebrate the yesterdays that did not swallow me whole, even when I begged. I am thankful today for a heart, a mind, a spirit that wants to live a long and beautiful life. I am grateful for my son whose face fits easy in my hands, whose cheeks are still rosy from my kiss. Thankful for the ways my mind is healing through stretch and prayer. Thankful for friends who bent knees and folded hands for me. Thankful for arms raised high on my behalf. Oh, the moon. How thankful I am for the moon that watches and follows me at night through streets and dimly lit roads, under bridges, around valleys. I am grateful. I am easy today with myself, with others on this journey, connected to me and to God and to water. I am thankful for all this perfect, all this magnet, all this rain. This poem is called Hold High. I will hold space for delicious love in the face of this world and the isms there are. Hold with me, pray with me, with fingers clasped, with words and whispers into fists. Heal and walk with me. Let us plant and watch love grow. Sit underneath shade together. This poem is called Offering. I will sit with you there in your cave. The same wind will blow over our heads. We will whisper praise to the dirt, to the sky, to God. We will pray together sweet and simple prayers made from our tears, thick with our blood and sweat. We offer our empty selves to be replenished. All this beauty full we give. So you see what I mean? It's just like peaceful and praisey and easy. This poem is called Time. There are moments, the ones easy and ever, the ones simple to remember. This summer heat, laughter, and friends' conversation about tomorrow, about all the tomorrows to come. This is now, these moments, to love, to cherish, just because. This poem is called Just Be. You will survive those brick days you thought you couldn't. You will breathe. You will see yourself in the moments after the clouds. You will smile at your reflection in the mirror. You will keep smiling until you mean it. You will get past the moments. A prayer will appear, or a puppy, a song, a ribbon, a rainbow. God will show her face and remind you to remember you cannot control the weather, but the rain will announce himself. He always does if you listen. Listen, Jaha. Listen. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for, I celebrate with you 20 days of connecting to you. Thank you. I hope that you are well. I hope that you are loving your lives. I hope that you are loving the ones in your lives. Be easy. Peace.